to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to align with your core values? Well, we've got the first guest of the new year right here for you. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris. And as always, I'm here with your host, Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls. This is the reason why we have this podcast and why we have all the things that we do is because of the book, The Giants and the Smalls. If you haven't joined us on YouTube, go do that. Hit the alert button and subscribe so you know when we go live every single dang time. And if you're not friends with Hugh, become friends with Hugh because he's a good dude to be friends with.
we are going to hit some rabbit holes today.
We're the king of rabbit holes. Hey, and then Facebook, A Tribe of Giants. It's a free spot you can go to get support and find a lot of other Giants and that maybe think alike, maybe that don't. That's great too. So that a bunch of people that can gather together and be friendly and help each other on their own Giants journey. Man, this month is going to be busy. I'm excited about it. We've got a trip out to Phoenix, down to, around to Phoenix, whichever way you're
like the whole state. Arizona. We'll be in the whole state.
Yeah. It'll be warmer than right now. It's about,
it will be.
There's about a half a foot of snow currently where I'm at and still going as of last night. There was no snow.
Slick. It's a wet snow.
Yeah, it is a wet snow. So we'll be in Arizona, and I'll be excited about that. January 20th and 21st, I believe. And then January 26th, 27th, we will be in northeastern Utah. Yeah, northeastern Utah. Vernal, Dinosaur Land.
Vernal.
So we're Vernal. We're going to go out there, and we're going to bless the lives of a bunch of people out there. We've got 3 or 4 schools, I believe, a library. We're gonna meet with the staff of the hotel we're meeting, staying with.
Right.
It's pretty awesome.
They're gonna turn that into an event too. So if you're in the Vernal, Roosevelt area, come see us.
Duchesne is welcome too.
Yeah.
The whole Uinta Basin. Come on out. It's close to Dinosaur, Colorado. It's right on the border of Colorado, up by Rifle, Colorado. So there you go. We've got SG groups that we'll be putting together, but that won't be the next one. It was going to be in February?
February 1st. Yep.
Okay.
So if you want information, reach out to us. We'll get that to you.
So you got a little bit of time.
Yep. We'll go up to a max group size of 20 people.
Perfect.
And so reach out if you want information.
Okay. Is there any other announcements that I didn't hit?
No, training the leadership team of doTERRA in February. And so we'll be doing a book reading / training there. And then throughout the year, we've got another event already booked in August with the Chamber of Commerce out in Vernal. And if we can come speak to your group and train your group, we'd love to do that too.
Yeah. Anywhere between Vernal and anywhere else.
Yeah. You pay us to get there. We'll get there. We'll do
it. Nick, will you introduce our guest? I'm excited for today.
Yeah. I'm lucky to know Steve Seay. He is he's at the forefront of leadership and coaching. So I met him through the Trusted Advisory with Rich Habits, and just a great human. He served nearly a decade in the military and 2 decades working in healthcare. Doesn't decade sound longer than 10 years?
Oh, it sounds like forever.
Yeah. That was like a century ago. He serves his clients through a process of self-discovery while creating alignment to their core values from the whole person approach, body, mind, and soul. So he believes that one area in our lives congruently impacts all areas of our lives. He's involved with leaders with small businesses to large corporations. It inspires him to offer guidance and support to those who need it the most as leaders. And leadership can be very lonely at the top and the bottom, right? And so we're glad to have you today. We're going to dive into your journey and really get to hear your philosophies for life. And what a time to do it. It's the first day of the year. I don't think this will happen on our show for a long, long time. where it just falls on this day. What a blessing, man.
Yes, thank you both of you for having me on the show today. It is such an honor and a blessing, as I have my kids out there too. So you might hear every once in a while,
Yeah.
you might hear my 4-year-old Caleb, and my 1-year-old.
Okay.
My wife just laid him down, so we'll see how that goes as well.
Hey, man, they're welcome.
All the magic is done here.
Yeah, where Steve goes, the family goes. Bring them in.
Yeah.
Well, have you always been as awesome as you are?
Depends on which perspective you're coming from. No.
Yeah, let's go back and talk.
I'd say yes. No.
Yeah.
No, I'd say no. Not until I met my wife.
Smart answer.
Yeah.
That was the right one.
She's the reason why I'm here today. Hopefully there's be some questions pertaining to her, because she truly is that.
Yeah, let's bring that up. But let's go back a little further. When was there a point in your life where you were unconscious to your ability to create? Maybe you thought life happened to you. Maybe you thought you were a certain person within that life in relation to it. Do you have a point that we can go back to?
So like before, I was kind of thinking about becoming a man, 18 years old, 18, 19. Felt like that was a kind of a critical period in my life, where a lot of shifting and changing took place within my life, at least. That's where a lot of things started to take off in different directions.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. I've got a son who's 17 and he's at the verge of launching. Just put him on a plane today. It's the first time he's been to the airport, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's learning that independence. And I ask him, "Do you have questions?" And he says, "Nah, I got this." So it's in a way exciting.
That's it.
And if we could talk about the launching, what a great place to start. I mean, a lot of people in a version have that launch point where you're creating that independence.
Yeah.
And there's this unknown out there and you don't know what the next steps are. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, you bet. You bet. And of course, you can't see my shirt, but that's the space, John F. Kennedy Space Center that we went to. And so that's kind of, I was wearing that, thinking about it as I was buying it yesterday, or a couple of days ago. We went there with the family, and I go, "What a perfect shirt to talk about this whole idea of what life has been like since going back to 18 when I joined the Navy. That was like your son, 17, and when I joined the Navy, it was one of those, I guess you would say, launching into the unknown, literally, right? And as soon as I stepped on a plane out of Spokane, Washington, where I grew up just north of there, is like kind of that point of no return, right? That point of going to Great Lakes, Illinois, and getting off a bus, and then and then you become like everyone else, get your head shaved, here's your clothes, your identity gets stripped from you, and you're like, oh dear, this is the beginning of life. That's new. That's going to be different. Yeah.
That's what I'm going to start saying.
Then coming from a small town like I did and going straight into the Navy.
Yeah.
What a wake up.
So you're a real man.
Man, I tell you, I thought I was, and you are, and if you can handle being like yelled at by the drill sergeants and
Those
stuff.
Navy
guys, that was a real test, right?
They're tough dudes.
Well, at least in the boot camp, then you get out and you go, man, I should have went in the Marines because I think I worked out harder, right? I go, I could have played out with these Marines. I could have hung out with them in PT.
The Army would have been a piece of cake at that point, right?
I see is
what was this, kindergarten?
Yeah, well, especially when you don't know when you go into boot camp. I worked out probably harder because of that, Ryan, is because I didn't know what to expect. I was scared to death because I had no idea what I was up against. And so I think I worked out even more just to prepare for that. And boy, I was surprised when the people that came into boot camp that didn't prepare. It really sucked, even more so for them if you weren't in shape. And so that at least gave me at least a sense of a foothold there, by having been somewhat prepared, maybe not as mentally as I'd like to have been, but physically for sure.
You had what you had, though.
At
that point, when you go into it, whatever you have with you, whatever resources, knowledge you had gained to that point, which at 18, I look back and I'm like, man, I was an idiot. I didn't know much at all.
That's it. Yeah.
But you take what
That's
you
like
have.
Last Wednesday for me.
Yeah.
Well, and you think about it too, Nick and Ryan. One thing I don't share too often is I did not have a single person I told that I talked to about going to the Navy. Now, I didn't tell my best friend, my parents, until the day after I signed, because I didn't want anybody talking me out of that. You talk about your 17-year-old said, "I'll do this. I'll do it my way," kind of like the Frank Sinatra song. Well, but I did that to the extreme level, to the extreme where I just joined not a single person did I get any mentoring or guidance.
Mom
And I
and
look
Dad
back
were
and I
like,
go,
where's Steven go?
right, right. And
How
I
did
do
he get to the
believe,
store.
well, and it's
You're in the Navy.
well, and that's the
He
cool
went to get
part.
milk.
There you go. Right. Well, the cool part about that though is I feel like there's redemption in any story, right? As far as
Yeah.
even if you hastily blast off into say going in the military and other choices that because it's a 4-year locked in commitment. It's not like, hey, I changed my mind, I don't want this anymore. There's no such thing. It's like, you said 4 years, you're committed to 4 years. Then think about commitment on a whole new level. I know we talk about it as coaches commitment, but that's a 4-year commitment. That you can't just like unwrite. And so as a young 18-year-old, you don't sometimes realize. I didn't realize that was signing up for 4 years. I thought, do boot camp, sure, sounds fun, sounds interesting. It's like, oh, I'm married to this for 4 years.
Yeah, if I want to back out and go play video games or something, they'll just come arrest me. No big deal. They'll throw me in a cell.
Yeah. So it's a different wake up call when you get there, and then you realize kind of the newness is worn out, and you go, oh boy, this is my life for the next forever so long. And so it was a shift for sure. So you talk about that launch point. That certainly was it for me. Mm-hmm.
To me, it seems like sediment. If you look at your entire life, right, this was one of those blurry, chaotic moments where the water was stirred up and you don't know how it's going to go. But as it settles nicely into your life, it becomes foundational for the next sediment, right? Like this idea of without that, Steve wouldn't be who he is today. Without that experience at 18, you would be on a different trajectory, right? You would have launched and gone this way. And so, looking at the acknowledgement of what is, if we look at acceptance as simply an acknowledgement of what is, and people have a hard time with acceptance. They see what is and they want to deny it. They want to run from it. It's like, this is the worst. I'm stuck for 4 years. That's the worst. And there's an opportunity to acknowledge that's it. Yeah, go ahead.
And I thought that the first year when I go, wow, when I went in too, I was thinking about how naive I was, Nick and Ryan. I was like, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. So one of the reasons why I worked out so much because I wanted to try out for buds. Well, I didn't know at the time. I'm not the test taker. My ASVAB score was low, and so was my SATs. And so I was just not a test taker. That's just not something I was, I guess you'd say, either natural, gifted, or didn't study hard enough. One of those. And so when I was in Great Lakes, I didn't get a chance to kind of take that pre-qualification for buds. And that was a real shocker to me because I thought, I thought I had, everybody gets a shot at least to get into that. And so from that first year was a real wake-up call, almost grieving. There's a grieving experience there for me for sure. That's why it was such a pivotal moment, because I grieved the fact that I could not just walk in and try out for the SEALs. And here I go, I'm going to be an aviation mechanic. And I go, shoot, man, I didn't sign up for this. At that point, I'm like, I could either go AWOL, which is just run, or sit it out and do my duty. And it wasn't until about 2 years in where I started to go, okay, once I've settled in, once I started to see that once I get out, I can use GI Bill and I could use things for my advancement. But the first 2 years was just hell inside of my thinking of what did I get myself into. The last 2 years settled into, hey, there's opportunity here. And I think there's something beautiful about commitment that even though I had, everybody has different experiences being in the military. Certainly my close friends do. And mine was one of those where I don't want to relive it again, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me at the same time because it was both the worst and the best.
Yeah.
All in the same 4-year period of kind of really setting me up for the next, where you see me today at age soon to be 45. I feel like that was the crucible, the apex moment of really stepping into.
We're not going to get there yet because there's so much to unpack around that experience, right? When you talk about grief, one of our journeys in the 12 journeys, the third journey is grief. Yeah. And it seems to be a natural process, even if it doesn't deal with the loss of a relationship or death of a loved one. There's a grief that happens called ambiguous grief that deals with our visions and ideals and dreams. And when we don't have those and it turns out different, I'd like you to dive into that process a little bit of how did that ever turn into depression? Did it ever turn into anxiety? How did you work with that and come to a respect and a reverence for that, I guess would be the question.
Well, I think Well, the biggest one is loneliness. A lot of people don't realize this when they think about combat and trauma and things like that. They assume everything is just in warfare, right? But they don't look at all the other in betweens when somebody's stationed. Doesn't matter where they're at. They go through boot camp or whatever, whatever unit they're in. It's lonely because you're placed somewhere, somewhere around the world, and you're away from family and friends, and you have to build a whole new community. That right there, just the impact of loneliness was the beginning of not only did I get a chance to go out to the SEALs, right? So that dream is shot, and then you're alone. So then you're out there on your own. And that part right there, the depression, not necessarily anxiety didn't really hit me there. It was more of the loss of where I thought I was going to be, and not realizing I was going to be out in the world by myself. I didn't think that far. 18 going, oh, cool, it's going to be fun, adventurous. I didn't think, hey, buddy, you're going to be out here in Philadelphia by yourself. I don't know. I don't know anybody, right? That wake up call, like, well, you're going to have to build friendships then, or stay lonely.
You
right?
know what's interesting? Yeah, Lisa Feldman Barrett talks about depression coming from not measuring up to our own ideals. That's the common theme in research. But, you talk about vision and not being able to see ahead. At 18, I was looking at day to day.
Yeah.
And there are still times now that it's day to day.
Sometimes minute to minute.
Right?
It is.
And then people come along and they say, hey, you got to set a 10-year plan. And you're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I can't even see that far ahead.
That's one of the things that probably, if you were going to say anything, fired me up more than anything. Is probably why I'm an entrepreneur today, to be honest. Yeah. I work exactly the opposite the way the military does, right? And I started doing some work with my friend, in the Army National Guard, and just the way I operate in life is what you just said, moment by moment. I don't do like the 4-year. I look back and I go, how in the hell is any 18-year-old going to really know what their next plan is going to be? It's almost like you don't get a chance to kind of, hey, let's taste it and see if this is what you think it's going to be, and then let's commit to it. You don't get that opportunity. And I look at life now, and I work the exact opposite of how I landed into the Navy. Is as an entrepreneur, I just I don't know where the next thing's coming. I don't. I just work with a day and a moment at a time. So my life is very different than those earlier years.
Yeah, even today, what a phenomenal day to have this conversation. Is people are setting their dreams for the year, right? Yeah. And I think of Steve Hardison's watch. He's got a watch that says now and now and now, and so all the time is now. And really that's all we have, because 5 minutes from now something could happen and we're done. Yeah. But we have this idea every year, I'm going to accomplish this year. And I see all these posts on TikTok wrapping up 22, and it's who is it? Dang, man, Tommy Boy, that guy falling down the hill, getting beat up. 2022 was like that for me. But we have these visions.
It was on Black Sheep. Yeah.
I know. Why is that? I just went blank on his name. But we have these visions of what the year is going to be like, and it's grandiose and it's all amazing. And then at the end of the year, we post a video of, it was terrible. It was like falling down a hill, right? And we do that year after year, and we repeat that cycle. And the truth is, like, you could see right now, you can be committed right now. What happens a year from now is kind of out of your hands. I think of that Bible, Chris Farley. Yeah. Yeah.
It's Chris Farley. There you go.
That Bible scripture is, take no thought for the morrow, for sufficient is the evil of the day, or something along those lines. Right. Yeah.
Today has enough to be sufficient for itself. Like, do we have enough on our plate today? Think about anxiety. I think about Byron Katie's quote. If I want to have anxiety, give myself anxiety, I just live into my future, and it's easy to get that way. Even I started doing, you're asking me, Dick, like, do I go on Facebook? I go, well, not much, but lately I have. And I go, man, I think I'm more anxious when I go on, because I'm looking at all this stuff and future and beautiful, and I go, but that's not like reality. It's not the world I live in from day to day. Yeah. When I look at people and lives, and, and I think from that context, like you're saying, it's we live so far into our, I think about even last night with firecrackers going off. We didn't know it was going to be like that, like blasting from 8 to midnight, and go, whoa, we really moved to the right neighborhood here. Cause we just moved to Northern California to Florida this last year. And I didn't know, wow, they really do their fireworks to the nth degree. And I go, this is going to be fun. We got to get involved in this. But you think, wow, so much tension and pressure is put on this day, also with resolutions. And I love what you said about like Steve Harson said now, and I'm just like, why can't you just be resolute until it gets there, right? Like resolute. Well, January 1st doesn't mean anything special than any other day of the year. And I just think about just this idea of I'm just resolved, right? Until I get there, I'm committed to it, you know, and because that's how I operate as well, right? I'm the same with New Year's resolutions. As fast as a coach, sometimes it's kind of like when those New Year's resolutions fail, some of those clients are like, what's happening? What's going on? I go, then you get a chance to work underneath that and say, what's all these expectations that's coming up? So it's almost when you see that 80% or more fail by the end of January.
Yeah, 88%.
They live into this fantasy world that they're not going to even, that they can't even step into or even take a single act, you know, step of action towards that. And so it's almost like they're climbing this uphill, always looking at the gap between where they are and where they're not.
Yeah, I saw a study the other day about gratitude and expression of gratitude for what you've got. And if we're at a level that we're appreciative of what we have, right? And somebody comes along and has something more, well, all of a sudden we're disappointed with what we have. Even though it was sufficient at the time that we gave gratitude for it, as soon as we can compare, if like, oh, I don't have that, then we become sad again. And it's not like our situation changed. It's just our perception of the situation changed.
Yeah.
I think of, you know, grief as part of your process here, and how the ideal and the attachment to the ideal is the real challenge here. Is I create a vision board every year, and I'd love to reach it. But if I didn't, it's not going to affect my happiness.
Right.
But I'm going to work my ass off to create it. But if I don't get it, it means nothing here. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, when you think about happiness versus joy, for one, right? Joy is internal. You can't rob, steal, or borrow. You can't remove that from somebody. It's there. Happiness is a lot of times is this wax and wanes on whether I accomplish or get or receive this thing I'm going after, right? Happiness is very external focused. But when you think about like setting out a goal, for instance, most people set goals, they look at a destination. I want to get to this place. Like me and my wife are, you know, we're running this bridge run in Jacksonville, where we now live, Jacksonville, Florida, here in March, right? So we set a goal. It's like, boom, we're going for it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, going to. So we look at goals as I'm going to this place, just like New Year's resolutions. But we forget to stop at what's my process look like today to even take a step towards that. Like you said, what's now and what's next? Right. What's kind of like my coach, I call him the great Jedi master, Gary Mahler. It's like, what's now and what's next? Right. What's now and what's next? It's like, we forget to do the process within the goals, like where I'm coming from, instead of always where I'm going to. And I think that expectation is I'm not catching up to where I thought I'd be, because I had this superhuman expectation that was beyond I'm basically beyond where I'm able to step into, versus I just get back to what's next. Oh, I fell off. I can get back on again. Right? You ever use that metaphor? Oh, fall off the horse, get back on. Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking of when I go, if there's something I want to accomplish, it's not to say, for instance, even the March race for me and my wife has nothing to do with the race at all, really. It's what it creates in us to even, you know, in the journey of accomplishing that is just helping us. I love this, like this idea of, you know, giants in the smalls. It's helping us to become giant in other areas. So when you read my bio, it's really the congruency of mind, body, and soul. It's like when I step it up in my fitness, chances are I'll probably step it up as a father too, and as a husband, and in my business.
Could you imagine?
That's what it's creating.
The more fit I get, the worse parenting I do, right? Like that. It usually doesn't go that way unless you're on steroids, maybe, and you just become angry,
right? Yeah. At least that's the view that which I see life. I know everyone has kind of a different view, but I really do believe you can't just box in one area of your life and not expect it to spill over. And so same thing happens too when you know, when we look at goals instead of as a destination, we're oftentimes, you know, it doesn't lead to the kind of fruit that we were hoping, right? You just think about Brett Favre winning his first Super Bowl. And it's almost like, is that all there is? Work this hard to get to the mountaintop. Right. Versus Tom Brady, even though I can't use him as much lately, maybe because he's going through all the divorce stuff. I go, besides the marriage part, let's focus on the 20-something years of football. But even with that, you know, and just looking at mastery differently. Like it's not the Super Bowls. It's I'm getting better at something that I love, and I don't have an end to it. I'm just getting better at chipping away, and I don't have an end. And that's kind of like that difference in goals that I look at, when I go, man, we're working towards something because it helps me rise up to almost a greater ability within myself. But the goal, it's the destination place, just might have helped me get out of bed and do some of the work to get there. Right. But the end goal is not what made me.
Yeah.
But that's where too many people hang their hats on, right? Especially when you're
the outcome, not the process.
The process.
Even mastery. Yeah. Mastery, that word comes from maestro, which means teacher.
Yeah.
Right. So mastery is just simply teaching, it's learning. And so I love the view that you're having here of this is just making me grow. I'm learning from this, whether it's success or failure, doesn't matter. I'm learning.
Yeah. That's why I like the shirt launch. It's like, just launch, take a step, go for it. Yeah. What do you have to lose? If I don't have an expectation to get to here, I can reset the bar every time. I don't have, because I'm creating my own. This is a thing with failure. People get so, I didn't hit my goal. You're the one that set the stupid goal. Reset it. Do something different. Right? There's this idea of failure. Right. Because in my mind, there's no such thing as failure unless I just sit on the couch and I don't serve the world with the gifts that God's given me. If I just sit there and do absolutely nothing, but then after a while, I'm going to get tired of sitting on the couch. It's kind of like people in retirement. Oh, I want to retire. Then 2 weeks on what? The beaches of Mexico, and you're bored because we're built to create and step into challenge, right?
We are.
True though, because a lot of
people
live for retirement. They get there and they go, "Damn, that's not what I thought it was going to be." I said, because that's not it. It never is.
Yeah. I mean, the word retirement means basically to put to death. It's like, you think about the languaging of jobs and careers. And there's a lady that will come on our show that's a linguist. And she talks about the word job comes from Job, from the Bible. Right. And morning, in the morning, Monday morning, we get up and we're in mourning over our work week, and we become weak throughout the week. And it's like all these things are just meant to just diminish our power.
Yeah.
Right. And you go into retirement, it's like you're just putting a horse down. I went to a horse race and they had to put down one of the horses on the track. She broke her leg and they put her down right on the track, and they retired the horse. It's a terrible thing.
Well, you think about it like this too, and when they do studies on retirement, and I worked in the hospital as a respiratory therapist for, about 16 years, and I got the chance to see it on the health side of it, especially with men, right, and men and women alike. But men, when they stop working, even in a mediocre job, a job where they hated their boss, perhaps, but they had meaning and purpose, and they were waking up each day to do something, that was healthier for them than if they retired to kind of this nothingness, right? And you'd see them atrophying, literally. Right. Mind and body. And so it just goes to show that we're built to challenge ourselves. We're built to stretch. We're not built to sit, even though it sounds, I want to be comfortable. I want to be cush. I want to have $1 million in the bank account. Sounds nice, but that's not life, right? That's just, it seems like it is.
We live for the weekend when we're weakened.
Like a new year starting. Right? People be like, let's write off 2022 and a brand new year. I'm like, no. Look at all the gains you made in 2022. Look at all the
sediment,
progress you made. Yeah, look at all the things you learned about yourself. Because here's the thing: it's like if they can't believe that they saw their growth in 2022, there's no way in hell they're going to get to where they could be in 2023. Anyways, they cannot get to where they want to set the path if they didn't even take a moment to reflect on this last year. That's the thing that saddens me probably more than anything. Yeah.
Dorothy
went to bed 4 hours ago.
She partying hard last night. Happy New Year. I love the Hughes comment. I get paid by my job weekly with an A. We do trade a lot of our internal talents for that income, right?
We do.
And we start to evaluate ourselves based on that income. So you said earlier, I don't do testing. Yet here we all are testing ourselves against what we think culture thinks or what we think society thinks.
Yeah.
And then we don't feel good about ourselves. We don't feel like we have the power to reach our goals. So this is going to tie in, the topic of how to align with your core values. Well, value systems are the things that are important to you. So a value is whatever's important. You increase the value of it. You appreciate it. Right. And it comes from all of your life experiences, the people you've interacted with, your cultural and social upbringing. All of these are foundational to your values. And the core values are the most valuable, right? If we just put it in that sense, they're the most important. And that's what comes from you as an expression rather than where you're going. If you're continually looking out here as an external locus of identity and control, then your value is out here in what other people think.
Yeah, that's why, as you say that too. By the way, I love how you have funny guests on there. That keeps it fun there. Like you guys, I like how you add that to it. The biggest thing I look at, Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times if I'm looking in the future, I just begin with the casket in mind, right? Begin with the casket in mind. This is one of the things I do when I'm with people is if I want to find out what they value is if they don't have a redo in life. So that's where I go, okay, you want retirement? Here's a retirement one for you. It's the things where when I'll ask them, I'll say, if you had your best friend, your closest sibling or relative, the person that you were basically closest to in your life, speaking on your behalf at your own eulogy, right? Speaking on behalf of how they experienced you, right? And what's those? And a lot of times I'll say, if you want to find out what your value is, what's those 4 or 5 words that you would want them to share about you, right? What's those 4 or 5 words that you would want them to share that you don't want them to miss? How people experienced you, the imprint you left on the world, all that hard work and the years that you spent doing, whether you're raising kids or your job or, the things that you were busy about. What is it you want to make sure that your closest friend or sibling does not forget to speak on your behalf? And that's where you get down to it real fast when people go, well, what is my value? I go, what's the thing that you can't, that you want people to have? It's almost like a legacy in a sense, right?
Yeah.
But you don't get to redo this. It's not something you get to say, well, when I get around to it one day, that gets to it. And a lot of times when I get to that point, people go, well, this value of mine is something that is something I do want to be remembered for. And then that opens up the plate to the current relationships they're in, the current job they're at. And I go, great. How does this align to your current day to day? And they go, well, it doesn't. I go, well, it sounds like we've got some work to do. But that's where it uncovers a lot of things just from doing the eulogy experience of finding out what somebody values. That's a good way to sometimes pull that out.
Well, it's from that you start to see character, right? Character is just an external expression of that. Yeah. I think of, I love Nacho Libre. I've probably watched it 40 times, right? And he's sitting there with Encarnacion. He says, let's get down to the nitty gritty, right? Tell me about this Encarnacion. Yeah. And that's what we're doing is we're getting to the nitty gritty of who are you at your core. And when you know what you value and what's important to you, and you design your characteristics and identity around that, then everything else becomes an expression of that. And so, like you said, the goal isn't where you're going to, it's what's coming from you as an expression, right? Yeah. And that is just the word intention. Let's play with this for a minute, because when we look at, you've created the creator, right? You've created who you are at your core. So when you face the unknown, as an explorer that you've got what it takes to go into the darkness, into the nothingness, right? So when you express and intend towards something, intention, like we're all setting intentions for this year, but are they intentions or are they, just they're not even strong enough to be an expression or a declaration yet, right? It's almost like, what would have people out here say, oh, that's a great New Year's resolution. Okay. I'm resolved to do this, but are you really resolved to do this? Like,
the question would be, they were already resolved before they came into this year. It's not just landed on them today. Oh, I'm resolved in 2023 to be an awesome husband. Well, why wasn't I resolved to be that last year? Right. Yeah. Now I might wake up more to the intentions of, okay, what steps can I take to serve my wife? That's one of mine, by the way. So as I say that, I go, hey, on my vision board. Yeah. So big part of it is it. But the resolution has nothing to do with like coming to the new year. It's something I'm resolved to do and not based on the time, like the year, what, to do it. I'm resolved, and it's almost like I will until, right? It's that place of I'm resolved to step into intention, meaning I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get there, even if it takes me longer than I thought, or the road's harder than I thought it was be. Because we talk about commitment.
Yeah.
That's where the whole idea of like, does this really matter to me, or is this just a fantasy, or just a fad, or just it felt nice in the moment? Kind of like when I joined the Navy and I go, oh, this sounds cool, till you sign up and they say, hey, bucko, you got 4 years. And I thought, shit, man, that's not what I thought I was signing up for. Well, too late now, right?
Yeah,
so it's almost that part where you have to really look at it in the sense of, is this something I'm really committed to, not based on if it doesn't get done in 2023, then it was a failure, or oh, it's really not what I wanted. And I think sometimes people look at intentions, or when I'm intentional about, a little differently than, like you said, declarations. Like, I am committed to this. I am this, right? I am. That's why values matter, because like for me, family wasn't, before I had kids, family wasn't necessarily valued because I didn't have it yet. Right.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't want a family, but now that I have 3 beautiful children, it's absolutely at the top for me.
Yeah.
Right. Is the value of mine, is how I'm now with my kids. And so when we look at, even with values, they can change from time to time based on the different seasons of life as well. They don't just stay the same forever.
Yeah. I like that. It's a living value system. You even hit on being interested versus committed. The word interested comes from entre, which is between. So when you're in between something, you're powerless, right? Even entertainment comes from the word stretching and in between stretches. And so intention is more powerful than entertainment, and commitment is more powerful than being interested. Like, I'm interested in a lot of things, but I've never moved into commitment with some of them,
Yeah. When you think about this is why I love serving entrepreneurs, because somebody as an entrepreneur can't just go, I'm going to try today, or maybe give it a good, I'm just going to go out there and see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be starving after a while, right? If you're not committed to it. And so this is one of the things I love about entrepreneurs, is the fact that, well, one, you don't wake up with the paycheck. So you don't have like hey, I know exactly what I have. So there's that part of it. But the other part of it is commitment is something is going to be done. I just don't know what, maybe, right? Something's going to be done in this, however small or big it is. Well, that's up to me, but the commitment to take a step forward, right? Is done, versus the interest is, maybe it can wax or wane by a feeling or emotion. Or if I'm reaching, notice this, expectations of my New Year's resolution. If I'm hitting closer to where I thought I'd be, then I stay motivated. But motivation is a bunch of crap, as you and I know, because it waxes and wanes on either how I'm doing or how I'm feeling, or if I'm making progress like I thought I would, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole part of building like a system, going back to process, like we were talking about earlier, having a process that takes out me having to, almost like this decision-making fatigue, right?
Well, when you know what your values are, you know who you are.
Yeah.
Then it's easy to realign with that. If you don't, when something happens, then it affects your mood, and then you think you need motivation to get back out there and create. And most people that are creating something don't give a shit about motivation. What they care about is decision and declaration and calling the shots, right? And then committing to it, and then detaching from the outcome. Like, if it didn't go the way they envisioned it, then they'll just adapt. They'll go in another direction. They'll try again, right?
Well, you think about this too. People are at the best at their craft, right? I use example with Navy SEALs often in the sense of being, it's not the smartest in the world. They're smart. Not the strongest or the fittest. They're super fit. It's their ability to flex and adapt and train for that. Right. It's like if you're watching college football, I know Nick Saban he was vouching for his team to get into the Final Four. But when you think about he trains until they can't get it wrong. Most people don't train like that. Right. And so it's this idea where I'm going to train and train and train until it becomes second nature, and I flex and adapt when things don't go my way. I do a little something different. I take a little turn here or there. But most people give up on the slightest, right? And the slightest pushback. And so that's where a lot of times I think coaching helps. I think that's the whole reason why in our field of coaching there's so much power behind mentorship and guidance, because it helps people stay in the game of who they are and who they're becoming.
Yeah, where they might have given up on themselves, a coach helps them kind of re-engage, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big
So
time.
looking at, because this is so in alignment with, and of course the questions matter because that directs where we go, but it's in alignment with the 12 journeys, because you go from unconsciousness and not being aware of your life to an awareness. And then you move through the grief and you move into acceptance, and you have a gratitude for what is in your life, and you find tools that empower you. And then when you face the unknown, there's a quote that we use by Margaret Dabble, I believe, or Drabble, that says, when nothing is sure, everything is possible. And then you look at the abundance, and people have this misconception of abundance. And abundance is the default nature of things. Wayne Dyer says you don't acquire it, you tune into it. And so when you look around you and you notice that all of these resources are around you, and you can turn them into anything, the laws of thermodynamics. I can take the energy that is and transform it from what it is into something else, right? We all have evidence of that. This used to be sand. This used to be pieces of metal in the mountains. Somebody dug it out and said, I'm going to make that. And here we are talking on a computer screen wirelessly, because somebody had a vision of taking the resources and transforming them. And so that's already there. We didn't have to create that. And so that abundance and the possibility, those two together allow us to envision anything we can imagine, right? And then, like you said, the real work comes in nurturing yourself, nurturing the creation, and surrendering the pathway. Because you don't know how it's going to come about. You just know it's going to happen.
See, and that's the difference between me going in the military with no mentorship, no guidance, to me being, 44 with all the mentoring and guidance, right? Investing in it more and more. So somebody can help me stay. I kind of almost like hold the line, like in Braveheart, hold. Remember, they're all like, William Wallace was hold, it's kind of like somebody can help hold the line for me long enough to where I could see myself in the journey and not fall to this, like you talk about giants in the smalls, not fall into this small, oh no, it's fall, I'm shrinking, I'm melting. That's why it's so important to have people in our corner. I call it counsel, but because that part of being able to,
there's a guarantee in life. There are no guarantees.
Yeah, right. I love that. I used to.
Macho
Man. Yeah, and he passed away, I think, a couple of years ago, didn't he?
I think so.
I love watching him, but that's that whole idea where I think we, and this is a big part in our culture today too, which is, we a couple dying arts that you'll see as we on this conversation is mentorship. People think you don't need it, or they can figure it out themselves. Like you said, your son, I love how your son and you said, I'm going to go out there, I'll do it, Dad, and I'll call if I need help. Right? But which parts of it's good, and other parts of it, though, I look now at my life and I go, oh my goodness, mentoring and guidance is such a big deal, because you have all this, like you're talking about, these intentions, these commitments, these goals, these things I want to accomplish in my life. But I also doing it alone. There's no such thing as like self-made millionaire or self-made person, right? Going back to Tom Brady, he just didn't get to become a star by himself. It's because he was surrounded by all kinds of people around him that helped him rise to this place for 20-something years in the league, right?
It's powerful, right? There are people that know a way. It's not like somebody discovered all the ways that you can become successful, right? But they found a way that works. And they can show you a way to shortcut whatever you're creating.
That's it.
And somebody else might show you another way and another way and another way. And it's beautiful because there's not anybody that corners the market on the way. It just, there's not that person. Even some of my greatest mentors will speak out loud and say, look, this is a way. And they know even in themselves, like they don't have it all. They have a way, and it works. It's efficient. Like you mentioned your wife earlier about bringing her up as a mentor. She had a way of doing things that inspired you to step up your game. Right? Can you speak to that?
Oh boy, we're having some fun here.
Yeah.
Well, when I met her, when I met her, there you go.
Oh, I love that. Savage. There's me in the bottom. There you go. The bottom.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude. Ryan Morris.
I love the picture there.
I don't know if I look more like Hank Williams Jr.
Probably
or
their
Macho.
son. If they had a son, it'd be Ryan Morris.
Sorry.
That's good. I like that.
Get to the serious part of.
I couldn't grow a beard like that. My hair's too skin, and now it's getting gray. You know, when you think about me, when I think about meeting my wife, is actually the biggest point of, I'd say the best part of the journey is meeting my wife, no doubt, right? Because when I met her, it's kind of like this untamed stallion running free, got all this potential, and where the hell is it going? And then I meet her, and everything shifted.
Your face,
right?
I just imagine you with flowing hair,
Dude,
like no care in the world.
I'm surprised she
showering
took
under waterfalls.
I think I hit her at the perfect moment. I ran into her in life.
Fabio.
I don't know if she would have picked me any other moment than that precious moment when we met in the hospital. She worked as a nurse and me as a respiratory therapist. And one of the things, I don't know if you guys have ever been in network marketing before, but that was the beginning of it, where I wanted to make an impression on her. So she took me to a network marketing event, and I thought, man, I better go to this thing if I want any chance of dating this girl. So I would just suck it up and go. I don't know what these crazy people are or what they do. So I went to this event, and the Amway Quick Star, those days. And I'm like, sure, I'll go to this thing. And I was just amazed. You know what amazed me? Think about this. Prior to this, no mentoring, no guidance. I just independent to the max. I don't listen to other people. I don't read books. So this is me prior to this. Then I go there with her just because I think she's just the most beautiful woman on the planet. And I go, okay, I'm going to go to this thing, meet these crazy people. But what they had there on the side of the products and stuff they sell, they were teaching leadership material. And I'd never seen anything like it before, but they had books and CDs and audios and people speaking from stage, talking like Dale Carnegie, how to influence people, and they were talking like the sense of like, I'd never heard before. And the people were kind of talking to each other like that too. In the audience, people were like, hey, we're going to help you get out of that job and live your dream. And I thought, what the hell have you been smoking? You didn't get out of my job, right?
You're weird. You're weird. I don't want to be like you.
Right. But I stuck around because I go, nobody's ever talked like that before. They did it in the military. They did it in the hospital where I worked. Nobody spoke like that. And I go,
they don't do it in school.
Right. So I thought, okay, leaders are readers. I'd never read. I didn't listen to anything that was powerful. I was never mentored until that point where I started got interested. And would you know, though, that started the beginning. So my wife really, by having me, because the moment I met her and her also being a part of this, this network marketing, but really it was the leadership material around it that I started to go, oh my gosh, I don't have to be this stallion that's untamed. I can actually be, a horse that can, put a saddle on. I can actually go places. I can actually have structure to process to harnessing this possibility, because I started to see that I can get mentored through that. Before that, I just thought, man, I messed it up again. Damn it, retry. But this time I go, ooh, it's all for learning. Learning's for advancement. But I didn't know it until then when I met her. And she gave me a chance in life because I was pretty, raw and untamed, and I needed a lot of help in that area. And she'd tell you that if she walked in here, she'd be like, yeah, let me tell you how many ways, right? But she is absolutely the reason why I sit here with you guys today. There's no way I'm an entrepreneur running a coaching practice and the trusted advisor work that I do without her. It's like Proverbs 31 says, it talks about, they should have a chapter like that for the men, but like how the men have, hold up in the family too. But it's like where she says, with her, he's trusted amongst the advisors or amongst the elders. And I thought to myself, she's helped elevate me to where I'm at today. It's like Abigail Adams, where John Adams would never be where he's at without an amazing woman, and second president of the United States. And I think about her that way, where I go, there's no way in hell I'm doing what I'm doing today without having been, met her and then introduced to leadership all in the same month.
I got hung up on leaders or readers because now I thought leaders they're like skeeters. You sometimes do something that stings a little bit and causes you to itch all over, but you pay attention, right?
Well, that's it, because you think about it, the more we learn, the less we know. And those that think they know a lot really have not been spending much time learning. Think about it, right? People who go, oh man, they need to read a little bit more, because there's so much to learn and be mentored from. Like you can be mentored from books too. And so that's where it opens you up to listening to other people's ideas. And, you see that in our world today where that's not happening very much, where people aren't listening. Well, a lot of times we're not reading either, or what we do read is just kind of, right. we're open to learning from all people. And I think that's what we're seeing the challenges of today.
We're boxing in, right? Like Townsend Wardlaw says that the moment you become a belief, it becomes limiting just by the nature of believing it. And so you boxed in the world and said, well, that's it. That's it. I got it figured out, and the world isn't that way. There is so much that we still don't know, right?
No, we don't. Right. And so that's the part of curiosity. I think if there's one thing that we have that I think makes life more precious as we get older. Here I am turning 45 next month, or this month, 19th, and I can't wait. I can't wait till turn 45, because I think life gets better, not worse, when we stay curious. When we stay, like you're talking about declarations, I am this, right?
Yeah,
I'm the best father on the planet, best husband, best coach, whatever that is. I'm into. And it doesn't, but it's not a destination, right? It's not like, oh, I failed to do this. I can wake up and have I get a restart.
I don't want to ever arrive. Like I have this insatiable desire to learn everything I can about, within context, right? I have a context that I like to stay in, and I want to learn everything I can about it. And I haven't ventured out into all the other ways that I could learn, but this is where I'm curious, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I can never find out enough about it. It's like, there is no end. I don't want to arrive anywhere. That's not exciting to me.
Yeah, that's it. Like when I traveled to your state of Utah, all I thought was possibility going through. I go, we're coming back here, my family, on some kind of travel RV trailer. We're going to explore this whole state because it was just gorgeous. All I could think was, I want to float that. I want to climb that. I want to go there. Just like
everybody.
Right, there you go. Just like you guys have the secret state. I mean, I'm in Florida now. We don't have those canyons, those mountains, the things, the rivers you guys have.
You do have Whitey's Fish Camp, though.
There you go. Oh, there you go. Right?
Yeah, I ate at Whitey's. Yeah,
there you go. So it's not 20 minutes from my house, buddy. We got to stop by our house when you come this way. Yeah. So but there's beauty all around. I was telling somebody when I left Northern California, I said, when you stay in a place of curiosity, you're living from your values, and you know who you are. I said, you could drop me out of a freaking helicopter. I would be content anywhere on the planet.
Yeah, place me anywhere.
There's beauty all around.
Yeah.
There's beauty all around.
And that goes back to your values. It goes back to who you are at your core, and your character and your identity. And it's not, I love the concept of identity with a capital I versus a lowercase I. And that's a recent discovery for me, is many of us are putting our identity in that lowercase, and the capital I puts it as a pillar between heaven and earth, and it's this limitless growth and connection with what's possible, that kind of identity versus what we see every day. Right. Keeps us connected there. When we're an identity with a lowercase I, it's like, this earth is it. It's the only thing we're grounded to, and we can see what we can see, but we don't imagine beyond.
There you go. It's like we're at the John F. Kennedy Space Center here just a couple of days ago, and I thought, oh, this place, I just felt like a kid there. And we were looking at we were reading about the astronauts and the three that died. I think it was Apollo.
Yeah.
One of the Apollos. Three of the guys that died, and she goes, oh, it's amazing how, wow, they must have such courage to go up there. I could never do that. I go, but for them, it was different. Yeah. They're in their zone they're in their element. They're in their sweet spot. To them, it's not. To them, to not go was almost harder than to go, because they're in their sweet spot. Like Mark Leclerc on the Alpinist. Some people go, I can't believe he climbs. I go, but you see when he's climbing, he's totally into what he's doing. That's what we're talking about, values alignment.
Yeah.
It's like when he's on the mountain, ADHD. Oh, I don't have any issues with ADHD. When I'm next to my next foothold and handhold, right? Yeah. And that's what we're talking about. Like when I go to places like here, and we're talking about that life where it's like, no, this is what courage for me is, stepping into who I am, right? And I'm fully living into that. But it's not like what other people would think, or, oh my gosh, that must take so much. I go, no, but your zone of genius might be in something else, not that. Right. When people listen to like a podcast or even a TV show like this, I had a client that goes, oh yeah, I can't see how they did it. I couldn't do that for me. I go, no, you need to see what's in that for you. Don't follow what they're doing, comparing, competing.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's about what you see for yourself in that.
Well, I wouldn't even want to do this. If I were looking back in time and I saw everything that we had to do to create this, I'd be like,
dude,
who are you, man?
No.
That's a long list.
That's exactly right. Like I was telling you before we started, I go, you have a long line of guests that come on. I go, I'm just a guy off the streets, right? Hoping to, here you go. Throw a dog
this guy who's homeless.
That's it. You pulled me out. That's it. And I love how everybody has their unique gifts and how God's wired them to be. And
Yeah.
that's it. And that's, man, when you don't have to compare or
Yeah.
compete against other
Mm.
people, life gets this whole, I'm writing this book, the idea of no boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And it's the opposite of kind of what psychologists talk about, this boundaries of like, I need to make sure I don't, let anything in these walls. This is different in the sense of like, when I know who I am and I can operate without competing against the world, well, I just stay curious, but I get to know who I am by putting myself out there. This is why, like we talk about retirement, it's silly because you don't see retirement in the Bible anywhere, right? Why? Because we're not meant to retire. You don't see any of the spiritual books, probably, when I think about it, across the religions. Because we're not meant to retire. We're meant to stay into curiosity of who we are. And if we stop competing, this is why social media sometimes can be a trap, because people go, oh man, their pictures look so beautiful. Oh, their life, their vacations. I don't have that. Right. It's like, hold on. It's part of that's not even real, for one.
I've seen those pictures where it's like the perfect, like they're like hugging and everyone's smiling, and it zooms out, and like the Christmas tree's on fire, and like
there you go.
sisters hitting a brother with a baseball bat.
So there you go, and that's where the sweet spot. Think about this. You mentioned the word. I love how you mentioned the word abundance. Abundance is creating. That's it. When I'm creating, I'm not reacting. When I'm creating, I'm not anxious. When I'm creating, I'm not depressed. My brain can't go two directions at the same time. So the answer to your question on abundance is, one, when I'm living my values, but I'm creating out of curiosity. That's the best life. And that's simple into the now, right?
Are you expansive? Like not so much boundaries. It's, are you expanding? Yeah. And what are you expanding? You're expanding something, right? Yeah. I think of the flow of a river, and we're like, man, rivers are beautiful, but we don't get pissed off at the cliff because it made the river turn, right? The river's like, hey, there's a cliff. I'm just going to flow around it. And we're like, what a butthole cliff. I hate cliffs, right? They're the worst. Yeah. But in our life, we have things like that come up, and they're obstacles, but then we're like, oh, I'm all dammed up. Right.
Well, I love what you just said there. I love what you said is frustration's okay. We're human beings, not human robots. Right. The difference is, and I love Chris Doris. He talks about this a little bit when he says, it's our options. What options do we have? Right. Yeah. I love it's like, I can be frustrated, but it can go to, you mentioned identity. It can go into, oh, woe is me. Oh, what was I thinking? Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, if it was only this way. Or it's just a learning process. And I go, cool, what's in front of you? You mentioned surrender and acceptance. It's like, if I can surrender and accept to what's available in front of me, then it's okay to take my frustrations. It's natural, right? We're all human beings. It's how we use that, harness that frustration, though, right? Yeah. Process of learning, identity and ego. Which way am I going with it?
Yep. Yeah. What does it mean about me, or what can we learn and grow?
Yeah, because it's okay to get frustrated. I mean, if those have kids, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, I'm working so hard on meditating. Kids are yelling, stop it. And then I'm like, right?
As a parent, I know exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's natural human being. I just get back into, oh, okay, that's not how I want to be with my kids. Yeah. Sorry, I yelled at you. Right. So it's like, I want to be back into relationships. So it's not like this perfection game that a lot of people, unfortunately, they live in this bubble where they don't get to realize that it's okay to be frustrated, have fear, emotions. It's okay to but it's what I'm learning about myself through that. Yeah. Because a lot of times people don't see that, hey, maybe this is also telling me something about myself. Yeah. Right. In this journey.
Yeah. Rocco, is it Rocco Willink, the Navy SEAL?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I saw a video of him just recently, and he says that anger is weakness. So the moment you get angry, you become weakened, right? You become powerless. And so what he learned to do is to acknowledge what was and recognize that this is the situation. This is what it is. And re-engage with creating a solution. Yeah. And even the word resolution, it's a re-solution. We're looking for a solution again. That's all we're doing. Yeah. And so, as we step into this new year, that re-solution is just being willing to take another step, to take one more small step, right?
We got to pause everything.
The sign.
What does your sign say behind you, or the?
Which one?
Any one of them. Probably the one above your.
Make each day your masterpiece. That's a John Wooden quote from probably the greatest coach of all time. I'd say UCLA Bruins. Make each day your masterpiece, right? He really taught this with his. He coached he had 10 championships at UCLA, and I love that idea where you get to wake up and you get to be the artist. You get to paint the way your day looks. That's why I love being an entrepreneur, right? And you can as an employee too. It's just you have to walk in, you have certain to-dos. But as I wake up and I paint How do I want this day to look, right? What's my curiosity leading me to? Where's my creations going with this? Where's my intentions, right? When we think about even New Year's resolutions, like if I'm just resolute, I just wake up and paint. I just wake up and draw. I wake up and color like my kids wake up. Caleb wakes up, my 4-year-old, and he just draws right away. I'm like, man, you just don't do anything else. Boop, I'm going to draw. That's our natural self waking up, right? That's why I have that to remind me. Of course, sorry, wrong side. And then Jordan, my dad painted that for me when I was 13. That's my dad actually painted that. Wow. And it reminds me of what this idea of, like you said, mastery. It's like I missed 9,000 shots for the person to be passing me the ball and says, you shoot this for the game winner. Right. So it's like that. It tells me to keep going, take a chance. There's no such thing as failure. It's just feedback, and so that reminds me of continuing to push. That's why I have that on the wall behind me. And plus it reminds me of just how beautiful my dad is at his art, and he get a chance to express it out in the world like he wanted to as an entrepreneur. So I feel like I kind of carried that torch. Like, thank you, Dad. I'll take the baton of what he started. But it's just masterful artist, and that reminds me: wake up each day and paint. You get a fresh start to do this. This is what resolutions are. I'm resolute to wake up and be an artist. I don't have to get anywhere.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's have some final thoughts. We're already an hour in. That goes too quick.
I know.
But final thoughts, Steve, and then Ryan, as we wrap up here, what would you want to share that maybe you feel still needs to be shared? Any impression you get that still needs to be shared for this show?
I think lasting impression was, as I watched Father Stew last night, for those of you who watched it, I just see a story of how we can come. It doesn't matter where we come from in life, right? It doesn't matter. We came from the bottom of the barrel. We came from all kinds of chaos in our past, or we came from a loving home. That all of us are able to accomplish just beautiful, amazing things. We're all able to be. I love how the show Giants. We're all able to be giants. In fact, the story is better, right? As Meg Ryan calls it, more colorful if you had more history in your life.
Yeah.
And I feel like all of us have the ability to accomplish great things if we know who we are. We're not worried about the rest of the world, what other people are doing. If we just stay in our lane and go, you know what? It's a beautiful life I get to live, right? I get to launch. I get to be that astronaut in my own life. I think that's it, of seeing that there's no one that, that doesn't have an opportunity to do that, at least take a step towards that.
Beautiful. Ryan, what other thoughts do you have?
If you're wanting to know how to align back to your core values, this is a great show to go back and watch, because Steve does that. So, and he's doing that, and he's done that every day, and he leans on those as he paints and moves forward, and trusts that things will turn out as he steps forward. And when they don't, he doesn't look at them as negative experiences. He looks at it as feedback. And then he adapts and adjusts and stays curious, and look what's happening. He's launching and continues to launch and stay curious. And as you look through and find commonalities in your life, because your life is going to look different than Steve's, it's going to look different than Nick's, it's going to look way different than mine, for sure. I guarantee you that. Mine's really weird. But you can take the weirdness, you can take all of it, and you can you can move forward through 2023, taking 2022 as feedback, and continue to grow and have reverence and gratitude and love for 2022, and do the same in 2023, and continue to be giants. And you'll be amazed at the things that come about, things that you never, ever, ever, ever expected. You might run into your wife that takes you to a network marketing company. Who knows? You don't know. The world is your oyster. And oysters are great in Jacksonville if you're ever there at Whitey's Fish Camp. And you can stop in and say hello to Coach Steve.
Please do.
That's what I got.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you, Ryan.
I just look at the good that's in life right now. There is so much good around all of us right now. This show, the information we've been able to do, we have over 600 videos on Wake Up with Giants TV now. Just phenomenal what gets created one small step at a time, right? And how fitting for your shirt that says launch, going into the idea of the moon landing, of one small step for man, right? One giant leap for mankind. is this year, have that be maybe a motto is wherever you're at, right? Like we say, the X is where you're at. That's where you're going to launch from, right here. Just like you did, Steve, going into the Navy. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just launching into it and we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your launch point, again, going into that theme. So take small steps throughout the year to create yourself and then have your creations be expressions from you. And so, yeah.
Don't be a butthole Cliff. That was my other one too.
Well, good, guys. Thanks for being on. For those that are watching, we appreciate you. Holy crap. I mean, the comments are the best because it just keeps it interactive and engaging. Thank you for being a part of the tribe. If you have family members or loved ones that you want to bring into the tribe, invite them in. It's a free space, free platform. Of course, we have Wake Up with Giants TV on YouTube. So go subscribe to that so you get the videos and make it an absolutely giant new year. We love you. Thank you for being on with us. We'll see you in the next episode.
Love you too.
Thank you, guys.